You'd think our two jokers would be in with this lot, wouldn't you?
I don't know, Tosh. They only smashed their way into a house terrified the living daylights out of the owner, then broke his nose. I reckon they're bound to get bail.
Yeah, right. Hello, Bates. You're right.
It's a day out, isn't it?
Don't worry, mate. He's got his return ticket.
As you'll see from the handout, this morning's session will be taken by myself, assisted by PC Smollett. We'll be dealing mainly with the new procedures introduced in April of this year relating to the treatment of prisoners in custody. I'll be checking that you've got this little number under your belts. This afternoon, Mr. Hayward, Assistant Branch Crown Prosecutor for the Division, will be taking you through some of the finer points of the law. Here's your chance to dispel any continuing mystification you may feel about the Crown Prosecution Service and its role in our lives. Anything you'd like to say, Mum?
Only that it's also a chance to build bridges, and believe me, we need them.
Sir?
No, carry on, Andrew.
Right, so...
I hope this isn't going to end up in a lot of personal axe grinding.
Well, I don't blame them for wanting to let off steam, do you?
He's never this late, is he? By 9:30, he's usually got his file sorted out and his blood pressure up.
I'll check with CPS liaison.
OK, mate.
DC Lines.
Yeah?
I'm Patrick Mead from the CBS. I'm afraid Mr. Williams is off with food poisoning. I'm taking his caseload this morning.
Oh, right.
And you're...
DC Carver, Holland and Fletcher, those two there. And Michael Bates, who broke the conditions of his bail, was remanded in custody.
Right.
Aggravated burglary, GPH with intent. They've elected for Crown Court, apart from Bates, who's taking the burglary rap.
Yes. I think there might be a slight problem with Fletcher and Holland. I'll have a word with you later. I think we're all right on Bates, though. He's only 17, isn't he?
Yeah.
All his previous appearances have been in juvenile court.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
What's he doing, getting tied up with the likes of Fletcher and Holland?
Don't know, he's a silly bugger. Half the time you take him for a kid of 12.
Well, I find it a different ball game in there. How can I go and sort out the other 43?
Would you believe it? They've done it to us again.
What?
Saying it's a two-bob lawyer who doesn't give a toss what happens. Now, what's he mean he's got a problem with Holland and Fletcher? They were nicked in the house with a stop on them.
Yeah, I know.
Well, I'm not having it, Tosh. If this geezer he tries to bottle out, then he's going to have me to reckon with.
Oh, excuse me, officers.
Ah, Mr. Dyer.
My client, Mr. Bates, would like a word in the jailers, if you wouldn't mind.
Oh, yeah?
He wants a couple of things TIC'd.
When you say a couple, you do mean a couple, do you?
I'll take the second notebook.
OK, Robert, that's fine. No, I quite understand. Oh, I'm all right. Midnight last night, the boiler blew up. You don't fancy a civil action, do you? I'm still trying to work out who to sue. Yeah, OK, I'll see you later then. Bye.
Anything I can do to help?
I don't think so, sir.
Bit of a problem being a woman on your own. I mean, when the boiler blows up.
Oh, I'll struggle on for the present.
I just popped in to see if you're OK for a drink with Hayward and his gang before lunch.
Well, actually, I think it's just Hayward. His colleague can't make it. That was him on the phone.
Oh, really?
This overtime's getting ridiculous.
Just Hayward? Do you think he'll cope?
Why, are you expecting a riot?
This is a bit of a waste of time, Michael, isn't it?
No. Why?
Well, half of this lot, you don't know who, where, when, what, do you? All right, so you've got a couple of cans of orange pop from some cafe. You got some slates off a roof.
Half of them was cracked.
Yeah, it takes one to know one. Come here. How'd that happen?
I did it myself.
Oh, yeah? When?
It was last week sometime.
I got fed up.
You don't like it with the big boys, do you, Michael? Yeah. You should have steered clear of Holland and Fletcher. What did the doctor say?
Don't do it again.
Well, he was right, wasn't he?
Don't touch me, filth! You filth! Leave me alone!
I didn't know I was going to be with that lot, Mr. Lyons. I seen the list.
What?
Well, they put me with Holland and Fletcher.
Well, they would. It's the same case.
Yeah, but like once I was in the house, I went off.
You mean you lifted a Rolex and a couple of rings, and then you went and hid under the bed?
Didn't say no lies, though, did I? I told you I'd done it straight off.
Well, you didn't have a lot of choice, did you?
Look, I don't want to be banged up with that lot, Mr. Lyons. They'll get me. They will. Can't you tell the magistrate I help you or something? Well, I have, haven't I? Look at that lot. them to give me probation. Tell them...
I don't have any crowds in this place, Michael.
Yeah, you do. You're just saying that.
Well, for a start, they're not going to be too impressed by you jumping the conditions of bail, are they? You should have reported into the police station.
Yeah, I didn't want to see Holland, did I? He had the same check-in time.
You should have quit when you were ahead, Michael. A couple of months back, there'd have been half a dozen people bending over backwards to make sure that you didn't go down.
They'll kill me.
Excuse me, sir. Could I have a moment?
Ah, right, yes, indeed. I'd meant to catch you earlier. It's been non-stop. Look, I've had a word with Mr. Dighton, who's defending Holland and Fletcher this morning.
Oh, yeah?
It seems that the two defendants are prepared to plead, thus saving us a rather expensive and protracted visit to Crown Court.
Plead to what?
Criminal damage and ABH on the complainant.
They broke his nose. They scared him witless. They're about to clean him out.
They were sat in his living room, officer, blind drunk. Certainly there were various items stashed around.
Video, antique telescope, camera.
But we've no actual proof, have we, that they intended to remove these items from the premises. Bates is different, of course. He made a full confession.
Oh, so what were the other two doing? Having a party?
Well, they'd already had one, hadn't they? Consuming most of the gentleman's liquor supply for the next 6 months.
And the fact they were hammered makes it all right, does it?
You can't offer up intoxication as a defence, as I'm sure you well know. But these two are saying that they were so drunk that they thought they were in a friend's house.
You believe them?
Well, it doesn't matter whether I believe them or not. The problem is, we can't proceed with a charge for burglary on the basis of the evidence on the file, nor is there enough here for GBH with intent.
What? After someone's had their nose broken?
If you read the report, where is it? It actually mentions displaced fracture. Hardly the same, is it? We can't submit this as evidence anyhow.
What?
Well, we need the original, don't we? This is a photostat.
Well, why didn't you tell me if there was a problem? Why wait till now?
Oh, I believe a letter was faxed through yesterday.
I didn't get it.
Check with your crime support group.
Look, this was supposed to be a committal hearing only. We would have had time to sort things out before it got to Crown.
Well, no point in hanging around then, is there?
I don't believe this.
Look, officer, I'm in the firing line here. If I submit this sort of evidence to support the more serious charges, I'm going to get blown out of court.
Yeah, so what happens when we have to explain this to the complainant? Who's in the firing line then?
Very well. I'll ask for an adjournment on the basis that we require more time to check the medical evidence, but I doubt very much whether the end result will be any different.
All right.
And it may be by then Holland and Fletcher decide to fight whatever we put on the slate.
That's all right by me, sir.
Do you know their senior lawyers are the equivalent of our grade 7? Commander?
Oh, good job you found that out before you decided on the quality of the scotch.
Come in. Oh, Robert. Nice to see you. You know our DCI read, of course.
I should do. We go back further than either of us care to remember. Mind, she still springs the odd surprise.
Well, it's good for you, Robert. Nothing like a rush of adrenaline to concentrate the mind, unless it's malt.
Robert?
Ah, very civilised. Not for me, thanks. I'll need my wits about me.
Yes, come in. Ah, Derek, just in time.
Actually, sir, I've come to say I'm sorry I can't join you. I've got a couple of things to get sorted. How do you do? Then I suppose I better organise the troops.
What?
It's all right. I've got my flak jacket ready.
Pardon?
They make it regulation wear on occasions like this.
Listen, I'm pushing off. It's pointless us both waiting around for a 5-minute adjournment. I'll see you later.
All right, mate, yeah. Hey, hang on, Jim. How am I getting back? Oi! Mr. Mead. Yes, look, I've just seen Bates and he's trying to sell me a couple of 100 TICs. About 2 of them make any sense.
Trying to get some credit, is he?
Yeah. He's also had a go at slashing his wrists. And he's scared rotten that they're going to bang him up with Holland and his mate.
And they probably are. That's if we manage to stick them with anything at the end of the day. He just trailed along with them, didn't he?
What's the report say?
Below average intelligence, subject to panic attacks.
I think he's having one now.
I suppose if these attacks are genuine, it puts a question mark over his confession. The defence might argue that he was in the grip of one when he made it.
No.
Look, I'll have a word with Mr. Dighton. Suggest that he ask for an adjournment on the basis that they require further medical opinion on the matter. We won't accept his guilty plea today.
That's okay by me.
Your friend's left, is he? DC Carver.
Oh, that's terrific. How am I getting back?
Oh, don't worry. Once this lot's over, I'll probably be going your way.
Cheers.
You know, the thing that really gets me is you knock yourself out and they send some pillock from the agency.
It's impossible to use in-house lawyers every time, though, Jim. Look at the courts they have to cover.
This character Mead only wanted to drop half the charges and give a walkout. Well, good as a walkout. I put a lot of hard grafting on that file. He probably only picked it up last night, yet he can still swan in and tell me I haven't dotted my I's and crossed my T's.
You okay, Michael? You briefed Trudie the school. You understand why they're not accepting your plea today? Yes?
Yes. Patrick. Our two lads haven't surrendered their bail yet. I'm afraid we've screwed up. My guess is they thought things were looking so good they'd treat themselves to a liquid lunch. That's their usual MO.
If you'd mentioned it, I would have had them remanded in custody.
Oh, well, never mind. I reckon it's bench warrant time and then bye-bye.
So what's that mean, then? Looks like you'll have company going back after all.
Holland. Ah, here, look. Now, hang on. Ah, here we go. Sorry, it's on the wrong side. Letter to Dr. Mahindra at A&E saying we require original. A letter from CPS dated 10 days ago saying they require original. 2 phone calls to A&E. Ah, here we are. The hospital phoned back yesterday. Dr. Mahindra is no longer with them. Transferred to Swindon General.
Oh, terrific. Look, did something come in by fax yesterday saying there was a statement missing and the charges were to be reduced?
I don't know who was on. I think that's the first thing we've had on it today.
Oh, yes, here it is. Look, I wonder if we might ask to get stuff sent over by carrier pigeon next time, since we haven't quite got the hang of the facts.
I think you're supposed to be in the incident room, aren't you, Jim?
Now, I'd like to place a bet that at some point in your careers, most of you have harboured a grudge against that lot at the CPS. Well, I'm here this afternoon to do my best to explain to you what the Crown Prosecution Service is supposed to do for you, and why sometimes it seems to cause you a lot of grief. First off, we're an independent service, and we're there to take the weight from your shoulders. Okay, I know sometimes it doesn't always look like that, but that's why we were set up 5 years ago. Before that, you copped the lot, with a little help from your friends, the police solicitors, of course. And because you were trying to be 200 people at once, too many weak cases reached court. Nobody knew which legal criteria to apply. Officers wrote statements on the back of cigarette packets. Well, you'll notice that doesn't happen anymore. Nowadays, we send you hundreds of forms. We ask you for full statements, summaries, records, the whole shoot. And then we want to know what the suspect had for breakfast and whether he took his lager with a dash. A lot of the time, we must seem like a never-ending pain in the neck. Am I right? You tell me.
You were talking about too many cases getting to court in the old days, Mr. Haywood.
That's right. Sometimes on the basis of this is a villain. We all know he's a villain. Let's get on with it, lads.
Yes, agreed, but making use of the knowledge that you have about a suspect, trusting your instincts, isn't always a bad thing, is it?
It can be if you let this knowledge prejudice you while you're investigating a new offence.
But isn't there something to be said, Mr. Haywood, for that old adage, let the courts decide?
It's a very old adage indeed, I'm afraid. It encourages a certain laxness in officers. But why should they bother weighing up the evidence when they can have a slanging match in court?
Now, the thing is, you only back odds-on favourites. You cover your backs, don't you? If there's any risk involved, you drop it like a hot potato.
Right. First off, it's a fallacy, this belief that we only back winners.
You weren't in court this morning.
If you look at the code you've got there, you'll see that all we ask for is a realistic prospect of a conviction.
Yeah, but if you've got an agency lawyer handling the case, then what does he know? Well, not a lot in my book.
Now, some agency lawyers do a very good job. Okay, in an ideal world, you'd have an in-house lawyer all the time. But the courts have to be manned. We work, as you know all too well, under the eye of the clock.
Or maybe we should turn it back.
Sorry?
Well, you know, to a time when we did our own prosecuting. When, like Ted says, we let the court decide.
You fancy a hand, do you, DC?
Carver. Yeah, I'd give it a go. Because one way or another, we're getting a second-rate service. The CSG doesn't know his arse from his elbow half the time. There's no communication, there's no backup.
Don't you think you might be generalising from an isolated incident?
Oh, it's not isolated, sir. Believe me.
Yeah, Jim's right. A lot of times you'll have a really strong case, and then they'll send the file back to you just because there's a couple of lines missing.
We had that indecent assault last month. I mean, the fella even made a confession.
Right. Let's see who's speaking from personal experience and who's relying on hearsay evidence, shall we?
Stephen Holland and Terence John Fletcher, you have broken your conditions of bail by failing to surrender to the custody of the court following the lunchtime recess. It was necessary to issue a bench warrant for your arrest. We are not satisfied by the explanations given by your solicitor, Mr. Dighton, on your behalf. We therefore have no alternative but to remand you in custody pending the next hearing. Take them down.
Come here!
Look, I'll have a word with the officers, OK? They'll keep an eye on you. You're going to be back here in a couple of weeks. Then who knows, you might get lucky for once.
I did have them slates, Mr. Lyons.
Yeah, well. I'll go and get my big book from the station and come and see you next week, shall I? And don't do anything stupid, all right? I don't want to waste a journey.
So you'd say it was difficult to make a with intent charge stick, would you, Mr. Hayward?
That's right.
Excuse me, sorry.
Of course, some intentions are so basic you don't even have to form them. I should say there's some pretty basic intentions around this afternoon, for instance.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't like to stand in front of us lot. It takes a bit of nerve, Milk.
Thanks. I think a colleague compared it to learning to tap dance on quicksand.
Made it then? Yeah, just in time.
Cool it, Jim, all right?
Sorry, Mum.
When you ask questions, listen to the answers.
But I can ask questions, right?
That depends what they are.
Oh, hey, mister, what, you got a nice car, have you? Come on, Holland, get in. Michael do his subcaps, won't you, Michael? Then he'll have a kit underneath it and you can run him over, that right? Yeah, right.
Oh, well. Do me a favour.
Yeah?
When you go to visit Bates next week, find a reason to look in on Fletcher. See if he'd like to drop Holland right in it. Tell him his cooperation will be very favourably viewed.
Well, I have to say, Mr. Hayward, that while far from agreeing with D.C. Carver and one or two others, I can't help feeling a little nostalgia for the days when I did my share of prosecuting. Of course, if it was a particularly complicated case, we'd call in our own legal aid service to give a bit of advice. And I must say, we had a pride in the reports we sent in to them. We used to index them. They were works of art.
And occasionally, if you'll forgive me, Chief Inspector, they were works of fiction. Only nobody mentioned it, because in those days, when a police officer said jump, the lawyer said how high.
But don't get me wrong. I'm not advocating going back to those days. No, indeed. I think you do an excellent job under the circumstances.
Thank you.
I know that one of the criteria for bringing a case to court is whether there's a realistic chance of a conviction.
That's right.
What's the other?
It's called the public interest criterion. Odd though it may seem to some of you, we're not just there to prosecute cases. We have to take account of the effect a prosecution might have on public order or morale.
So why wasn't it in the public interest to prosecute when two thugs beat me up, Mr. Hayward? Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, whose public interest are we talking about?
I'm familiar with the case. WPC Ackland, isn't it? And I can understand you're feeling pretty aggrieved.
I doubt it. You're not the one who got kicked in the stomach. But you are the ones who decide whether there's a case to answer. Now, if I want action, it's all down to me. It wasn't just bruises I came out with at the end. Getting some action cost me an arm and a leg.
I'm afraid we have to follow the code.
Oh, which says that if a police officer gets hurt, we sit back and do nothing? Nobody gives a toss, do they?
I have to say, yours was an exceptional case.
Was it?
In real terms, you were the only witness to the offence.
Surely that is for a jury to decide, Mr. Hayward. Why didn't the CPS take my case to court? Why was it all down to me?
Yeah, but you keep going on about these isolated instances, exceptional cases, don't you? But it's happening all the time. Or like this morning, getting some second-rate lawyer who bottles it out. Lets the defence get away with every dirty trick in the book. I start wondering whose side you're on.
It's important that we remain objective. Not everybody who commits a crime needs to be prosecuted. Some need protection against it.
Yeah, well, they get that. That's like this morning. I was told that although these two yobbos were sitting in the front room in his house with the gear they'd lifted, we couldn't go after them for burglary. 'Cause why? 'Cause we couldn't prove they'd intended to walk out with the stuff. We didn't have a statement saying, "Oh, OK, Gov, we're nicked. We were just about to walk away with a swag."
Oddly enough, proving that an action is done with intent can be extremely difficult in law. Unfortunately, you see, officer, we're not all mind readers.
Yeah, but then this lawyer character wanted to drop the GBH case as well. OK, they were drunk. They lashed out. They broke someone's nose, except they didn't really break someone's nose.
Ah, here's another of our number. Patrick Mead, one of our senior Crown prosecutors. He had to take on a caseload of work this morning at short notice. So, anybody like to ask him some questions? DC Carver, on you go.
When did you get your law degree, Jim?
Sorry?
Night school, was it? Or was it some kind of correspondence course? You must have been working all hours. I'm very impressed, because you seem to have been working all hours here.
You think I wasn't respectful in there, do you, Mum? We've got to put on the kid gloves, have we? Look up to the...
You look up to me, that's what's important, Jim. When I say cool it, you cool it.
I don't think that...
And if you're about to ask questions about what I'm telling you, don't. Because in future, if I say jump, all you ask is how high. Got that?
Oh, I think so.
But you're not sure, are you? You're still waiting for some sort of softly approach, like, sit down, Jim, how are we? Any problems? Oh, dear, let's just sit around for a couple of days and sort it all out. The trouble is we haven't got any more time because you've wasted it all. And this afternoon you did it in spades.
I didn't intend to.
Didn't you? Well, I don't know if I can believe that, because you just about blew the session. However, as the man said, if you were listening, intent is a difficult one to prove. You thought Mead was a pushover.
I just got hold of the wrong end of the stick.
Come with me. Right, look. The new timetable. Note the asterisk at the bottom. No overtime to be worked from tomorrow. You clocked up 12 hours last week.
I was under pressure.
Oh, I've been there, Jim. I've done it. I've seen it. I've got the T-shirt. Live this job every waking hour and you're in the funny farm. So, till I give the word, when 5 o'clock comes, you clock off, okay? We won't count this evening.
Sorry?
I mean, it didn't happen. Okay?
Okay, Mum. Thanks.